That's recording. Beautiful. Whatever you're comfortable in. Like, you can sit up again. Like that. That's okay.
Okay, yeah.
Stirring it and like that.
Considering its quality and size become a part of our everyday lives in the future.
Did you know that fat phobia is a thing? Is it okay to call someone fat? Are doctors the people that we should be listening to at this sort of thing? I chat to the lovely Shay Lee about fat phobia and all of its problems. You're watching The F Word.
I'm Shay Lee. I'm a community radio broadcaster, a student, and someone who has a bunch of opinions. It's something that's very difficult to unpack because there's a lot of layers and nuance, and it's all bound by these giant structures of power that other parts of feminism is probably very familiar with. It's the dislike, disgust, not keenness of fat people, fat bodies, the fear of becoming fat. I think people have a lot of misconceptions about what it actually is or what it means or what people mean when they're saying that something is fatphobic and how that challenges them and how that affects how they think about themselves and other people. Femme privilege is basically sort of having a body that is inherently less political, a body that is considered maybe inherently like good or better or neutral even, a body that has less assumptions attached to it, a body that fits into conventional beauty standards, conventional standard sizes, conventional portions that people are expected, a body that fits within ideas of success or health, what people think is healthy or fitness wise. It basically carries a lot more positive assumptions than a fat body would. I'm no historian, but the general idea is that it was supposed to champion bodies that are often not conventionally celebrated. And this includes a lot of bodies and a lot of different types according to disability, race, sexuality, all of these things. But I guess in certain areas it's sort of become this where a lot of bodies that are already celebrated sort of like entering into that or wanting to be positive about themselves too, which is a good thing. So I think body positivity is sort of caught up in semantics and like a pop cultural thing, where it's kind of this thing that people might have a general knowledge but not really engage with the political aspects of it. Maybe they see it as more of a hashtag thing that happens on Instagram. But Fat-activism and fat body positivity is very specific to fat bodies and looking at all the layers amongst that, from people who consider themselves to be small fats, chubby, or super fats. I think people even refer to themselves as death fatties, so it's like this whole spectrum and people have got different issues at different points. It's a lot.
I think it depends how you're saying it, because I think it's a word that isn't quite reclaimed in the way that a lot of other words are. You know, people might more openly accept people being called queer, but I don't think people would accept being called fat in exactly the same way. And there are people who very intentionally use that word, but there's also people who misuse the word a lot. And so, you know, it really depends. Are you calling a skinny person fat? Are you calling yourself fat? Are you having a fat day? What do you actually mean by that? Or are you describing a fat person as they are, or are you using it as a descriptor? Are you trying to explain who someone is to someone who you know that they know, but they don't remember their name? You're like, oh, you know, brown hair, she's fat, piercings. It really depends on what way and or whether you're saying it to their face. If someone's calling themselves fat, it's probably fine to call them fat, but do not use it in a derogatory manner, please. I think the issue with a lot of health advice as far as fat issues go is that I think a lot of people are more so doing concern trolling, where they may not actually be that concerned or that informed, or there's like ways that you can talk about it that is not degrading to the person or is not patronizing. You know, the internet is out there, people are able to gather resources more so and find things out by themselves. But it's like, who is dispensing the health knowledge? What way are they doing it? Are they a medical professional? Are they a multi-level marketing monster on Instagram? Context is so key, and it's so hard to talk about these things in general terms because it's so nuanced. And, you know, maybe health is something that fat people are thinking about a lot, or maybe it's something that's like very hard to confront because there's a lot of layers of shame in that, or a lot of things that aren't necessarily accessible. You know, it's not just the idea of just go to the doctor, just go to the gym, just go to a nutritionist, it'll be fine, because sometimes these people won't be the kindest or understanding people along the way, you know. You might encounter someone taking photos of you in public or making fun of your attempts, or if you aren't achieving certain amounts of like weight loss. And so I think this idea of like health or healthism, which is a whole other thing of where I don't think the level of respect someone should get should be in response to how healthy they are. Because there are lots of ways to be unhealthy, but often in this idea of health, where people are talking about nutrition, they're not really considering a holistic idea of their mental health. I think there can be like a lot of like sassy retorts about people talking about health, like don't talk to me about health unless you're my doctor. But even doctors can be quite fatphobic, because while they are well trained and educated in certain points, doesn't mean they're necessarily all that together with I guess social justice issues, or you know, they're probably quite desensitized given the amount of stuff that they see in a day. But also I just think like the approaches that people take, so as far as considering someone's health to be self-inflicted in some ways. So if you compare a athlete and a fat person and they both have knee injuries, you know, the athlete is someone who puts their body through a lot of trauma. They're using all kinds of protein bodybuilding stuff, and they're just thrashing their body and they get a knee injury as a result of this. Fat person also gets a knee injury, whereas one athlete might get 6 weeks leave and all the support and surgery and like treated in a very specific way. A fat person might be considered to have deserved it because they haven't done enough, even though it's the same injury in a way. I'd like there to be better, more well-rounded representation of fat people. I'd love to see fat stores actually using fat people in their advertisements. I would like thin people to think about the way that they refer to themselves. If you're like, oh no, you're fine because you're my friend and you're gorgeous, you're curvy, like you're pretty, you're fine, and then pointing at other fat people who are struggling to walk upstairs and be like, well, you're never gonna end up like them. Talking about having fat days, or about how you're so stoked for your weight loss because you got rid of that wedge of fat like near your bra strap or whatever. But I think that's really bloody difficult and is actually like a massive ask in some ways, because even the best of fat activists, I think, still struggle with internalized fat phobia, or like things that they don't even realize. And I think if we made things more accessible to all kinds of bodies, whether it be chairs with those desks built into them, or clothing that gives fat people more options, or just extending straight sizes. Don't tell fat jokes, don't laugh at fat jokes, ask why they think they're funny. Be very aware of the language that you're using, and if you're using fat as like a shorthand to mean something else. Do you mean fat as in lazy, or are you saying I'm having a fat day because you're not feeling good about your body? Are you commenting on what people are eating? Are you congratulating people for losing weight? Are you making assumptions about people based on their body? Or maybe even thinking about, if you're complimenting your friends, maybe do it in a way that isn't necessarily appearance-based, including your fat friends. I don't know, or being aware of how people might uninclude themselves or opt out of things. Are they opting out of beach trips? Are they opting out of shopping trips? And how you can make your spaces more body positive. So it can be really small things, it can be bigger things, like not food shaming in the workplace is a big one in offices. Yeah, but it's a tricky one to unpack. So maybe think about the way that you think about yourself and your body. Healthier ways you can do that. Because it'll benefit everyone. If fat phobia disappeared, I think probably literally every person could benefit from it, thin people included.
That was a lovely Shay Lee. Thank you so much for talking to us and being vulnerable and articulate and lovely. Thank you so much. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, click subscribe or join the Facebook group for more discussions. Bye.